Hello and welcome. You're watching The Buck Stops Here and I'm Barkhada. The big story on the program tonight, 8 days after the horrific murder and rape of a young Dalit woman in Kerala. Finally, one police officer has been removed from the investigating team. This on a day when the BJP took a team to the Election Commission to protest the tardy pace of investigations and alleged that there is a cover-up taking place because this is election season and the ruling Congress government does not want lapses, shocking lapses that have taken place in the investigation to be exposed. That is going to be our top story. In fact, it's our lead on the program tonight. The lead story tonight comes from Kerala, from on the ground in Kerala. We look at, on the lead, how it was essentially students who galvanized a ground movement to basically bring national attention to this case which was otherwise forgotten on the margins. Let's go straight across to Sneha Mary Koshi, who's on the ground, on the lead story tonight. Sneha, in many ways, this would have been a story forgotten by politicians, a story forgotten even by us in the national media. Were it not for the friends of this young woman who was studying to be a lawyer, she lived in abject poverty, she lived with her mother, an isolated life. Give us a little bit of a sense of how these young people came together and forced politicians to stand up and take notice.
Barkha, let me tell you at the onset, when we talk to the friends of this young woman, of this 30-year-old victim who was brutally murdered, allegedly raped, it's mostly girls who are behind the scenes, They will not come in front of the cameras in Kerala, specifically among their friends. But it's the male friends who've been going to the spot along with these female friends of theirs. They have been going right there. They were the ones who went out on the social media, started putting up things. It was almost 4 days. This incident happened on Thursday. The police said it was a case of murder. But it was these young lawyers who went to the spot there and then started putting things up on the social media, saying, why is the media, saying, why are the politicians, nobody taking this up? 4 days on, there was stoic silence, absolute contrast to all the protests that we are seeing throughout the day, outside the hospitals, outside the police stations. That was not what it was in 4 days. In fact, for the first 4 days, it was the mother who was wailing inside the hospital by herself. By her side was only her daughter, the only living daughter now. There was no one else by these two people. By the side of these two people, there was no politician who was going to them for the first 4 days. The police had severe lapses. In fact, that's why one of the police personals have been removed from the investigating team, because of the severe lapses, procedural lapses in the first 4 days before the protests actually broke out and took political colors. Let's see this report.
ये दुनिया से हम लेकर रहेंगे
Kerala is up in arms for its Nirbhaya. The brutal murder and alleged rape of 30-year-old law student has sent shockwaves all across. The anger amplified by the fact that 8 days after Jisha was found dead in her home in a pool of blood with her intestines hanging out, no arrests have been made. Jisha lived in one-room house in Perambavoor with her mother after her father left the family years before. She was a student at Ernakulam Law College and had 3 papers left to clear. This Dalit student met with the most devilish brutality in the God's own country. She was allegedly raped, her body had 20 cuts and her private parts slashed open with a large weapon. For Jisha's mother, the trauma continues. Hindered by the never-ending visits of political leaders, hospital sources say more than 60 people have made visits in the last 48 hours, mostly political. Her only family support is her eldest daughter now, and a refuge, a one-room shelter on the banks of the canal. In pole-bound Kerala, anger against the delay in justice evident. People have decided to speak to the politicians in the only language that they understand. No vote if no justice. Oscar winner artist Resul Pookutty tweeted, "Don't let down Jisha. Kerala is not Delhi. We have to be assertive." Anger on the streets of Kerala evident, one investigating officer removed from the investigating team. Sources say because of the initial procedural lapses found during the first 4 days of this incident. But too little, too late, 8 days on and not even one arrest. With camera person SP Babu and K3 Angre, Sneha Koshi for Indie TV.
So finally, this horrific rape and murder is getting the national attention it should have got much earlier. Questions are especially being raised as to whether there has been a cover-up and a lack of response so as to not ask the tough questions in election season. Adding his voice to the debate is one of Kerala's most famous artists, sound artist Resul Pookutty, of course an Oscar and a BAFTA award winner. Resul, I've been seeing what you've been writing on social media. You're obviously very anguished. You're obviously very angry. You say this is not the Kerala you recognized. In many ways, what's happened here is similar to what happened with Nirbhaya in Delhi, but it hasn't got that kind of attention yet. In fact, that's what you write. You say Kerala is not Delhi, so we must be assertive. So obviously, beyond the horror of what's happened, what's really making you angry is the fact that this has not got the same kind of national attention.
Yes, exactly. I mean, what I feel is, of course, the police has messed up the whole thing, because going by what the kind of procedures that they have done, they hadn't even done the basic procedures that one should follow in a murder, in a rape and murder like this. They haven't traced the evidences. They haven't done the video photography. They haven't followed. They haven't got a senior police officer. They should have got apparently they should have got a group of doctors to do the post-mortem. So none of it has been done. It was a very shoddy inquiry. Even in their first inquest report, there's not even a mention of a wound. Apparently the girl had 38 wounds in her body. I mean, these are like serious lapses. Kerala has produced some of the best police officers in the country, but to see that Kerala police has gone down and have taken a lopsided view to murder of a young girl, she happened to be a law student.
Yeah.
For me, the similarities with Nirbhaya case is very, 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 astonishing. The fact that we haven't learned anything from an incident like that,
Yeah.
and it happened in the heart of Kerala during the election period, when such a fever around election, and nobody cares about anything else but election. So the only point at a time like this is to assert and say that no vote until you do justice to Jisha, and that is the kind of thing that the politician seems to be listening, which is very, very sad.
Yeah.
It's not about politics. It's not about whether it is CPM or who is responsible. Is it Congress or is it anybody else? But it's about a life that is lost brutally.
And in fact,
and we haven't done anything about it in the last 8 days.
And in fact, Resul,
that's disturbing.
It's very disturbing, and what's really shocking is that in fact it took all these days for the police to even cordon off the crime scene where she was killed and raped in such a brutal manner. Her insides grabbed out by the assaulter, 38 wounds as you mentioned, and the police did not even cordon off the crime scene.
Exactly, and they, being a lawyer and somebody who has studied law, I understand a little bit of things, and they haven't followed even the basic principles of, understanding a crime scene. They haven't videographed the area. They haven't traced. There's something called a tracing of evidence. That they have not done. Apparently, a circle inspector of that order has to be supervising an incident, a murder, any murder, crime scene is to be supervised under a supervision of a circle inspector. That was not done. So there are many, many lopsided. Now forming a big team of police officers, and after 8 days of it happened, I don't know how it's going to help. There are various views on what has happened, and but we could have got lead evidences or a light into the incident of what happened. We could have got if the police were reacted positively. And I'm saying this happens everywhere. There's no difference. I feel there's no difference now between Kerala, Delhi, Chennai, Mumbai, anywhere crime against women is not taken seriously. It will have to, unless and until it upset the conscience of people, it doesn't reach them. I don't know why we have become, as a society, collectively we have become like that.
Absolutely. And Resul, when you say no vote till there is justice for Jisha, which is what you put out on Twitter today, are you, and then you say that this is the only language that politicians understand, this is the only language they'll understand in election season. Are you in a way calling for a boycott of the Kerala election? Are you asking people to not vote till there is concrete justice and concrete movement in the investigation?
I wouldn't want to say, boycott the election. I don't want to use that term. I'm saying vote is the only thing politicians understand. That's what they're running for. That's what they live for. That's what their whole sustenance is around that. Look at the whole tamasha that has been put out, and the language and I think we have to react in a language that they understand, and that's the language of vote. And it's very sorry and it's very sad that it happened at this time. Probably this has not been looked at in the way it should have been looked at because of the election season. Probably all that. There's a whole lot of things. The police, of course, has a responsibility to protect the government and its people. Election comes, of course, they have double, triple, or 10 times more work than they actually have to carry out. All those reasons are there. But when a human life is lost, whether it is a politician's life or it's a Dalit woman's life, a life is lost in the most brutal manner. You can be sensitive to that.
Absolutely.
I'm saying that sensitivity has not come from a state that boasts of 100% literacy. That disturbs me.
And, talking about insensitivity, Resul, you actually had the Chief Minister using the word mishap to describe this brutal rape and murder, and as you said, just like Nirbhaya, the intestines pulled out, sharp objects used to create, to attack this young woman, 38 injuries. What I'm hearing you still say is there should be no vote till there is justice, that in a sense, the elections become meaningless without that. And so, if you were voting there today in Kerala, would you take the position that I'm not going to vote till there is justice?
I want to see that. I definitely want to see that. What is the stand of politicians in a crisis like this, in a situation like this, where the mother has lost her only daughter brutally in her house, within their own, four walls that they had, the only roof that they had. And it then happened in a broad daylight. And it's happened between 3 to 5 p.m.
Yeah.
It is shocking.
Yeah.
And we don't do anything about it.
Yeah. And
that is even more shocking.
And Resul, there's also caste and poverty that actually compounds the injustice and makes certain women a softer target, because in this case the woman Jisha was Dalit, extremely poor, lived in an isolated area in a house. Now we read these disturbing stories, did not even have a toilet. They would defecate on newspaper, newspaper sheets, and then pack them up and dispose them off somewhere. Do you believe the story has in a sense been ignored by everybody? And I must hold myself in the media as guilty, because some would say she's poor, she's Dalit, she's away from the national capital, she's away from your eye, so she doesn't get that attention that she deserves.
I completely think so. I am very happy that you have brought it out, because for 7 days, for almost 5-6 days, media didn't even cover it, unless and until the students of the law college came out onto the street. Similar to the Nirbhaya case, the youth of the country has woken up and they said, we will not tolerate the crime against women in this country. And the students of Kerala has taken that stand and position, and that's when it's got attention. I do not know why the media runs so much behind politicians during the elections, and I can't understand that. This is also a wake-up call for us.
Yeah.
The people who are in the media, to understand. And I think it has been, gone down. Even the lopsided action come from police is also due to the reason that she is a Dalit, and that is something that I can't digest, because, the father of the nation said, they are Harijans, they are they are the people from who are closest to the gods, and they are the one who is ignored the most in this country, and that is something that we can't digest.
Yeah, and you make a strong point that the police inaction in part could be elections to cover up lapses, but in part could just be the sheer caste bias that is subliminally there in the police force. But Resul, Kerala has a very high literacy rate. It's the most literate state. It's also a matrilineal society. One would expect this state to be much safer for women than other states.
It is. I mean, I want to believe that it is so, but it is actually within the dynamics of and the complexity of Kerala society is not so. I mean, if you look at all the political upheaval that happened in the last 2 years, it's all about women. It's all about women-centric issues that are heating up in the Kerala politics. There is a lot of suppressed sexuality within the Kerala society, which is very, very disturbing, very, very disturbing. And I mean, I want to believe that it's not only a Kerala aspect. You take anywhere in the world, whether the whole, if you look at the statistics of America, statistics of UK, of India, like everywhere it is happening. I think the women become easy prey. They are looked at as subjects, matters of satiation, and that's how the society has been. I don't think education or percentage of literacy has anything to do with it. And also the Kerala, the complexity of the society has also slightly changed. It's become the home for the most migrant workers in the country today. That is also adding problems to the social context in which this kind of incidents has happened. I'm not blaming the migrant workers. I'm not saying that they are behind it, but that is also has increased a kind of complexity within the society. We need to look at it into all this, and we have to form maybe a ministry, a division of a ministry to look into framing new laws and new binding structures where women can feel more safe. This incident say that no girl, I mean, I'm a parent, I have a daughter, and I would not feel like will feel safe that she goes out. This happened in the broad daylight in Kerala. It is something that we have to wake up to.
One last question, Resul. This horror story has gone from being one that was neglected by the politicians, by us in the media, to now becoming a point for competitive politics. Now you have politicians tripping over themselves. They all want to go and meet Jisha's mother. Does that also worry you? That, the one extreme is nobody paying any attention. The other extreme now is everybody wanting to say we care more than the other, and one feels cynical because it is election season. And does that worry you that everyone's milking the Jisha rape and murder for their own ends?
Yes, I mean, see, that is the nature of politics and its people, and in a democracy, they all trying to blame each other, they are going to fight on the streets. But what about the woman? What about the girl who lost her life? What about the mother who has lost her daughter? You do all the tamasha that is possible, that you can within the reach of your possibility, but do not ignore the lives that is lost. A life lost is lost. How we can restructure that, how we can rebuild that, that's what we should focus on, not the political tamasha.
Absolutely, Resul, and your voice adds a very, very important layer of substance to this. We must all push for justice for Jisha. Thank you so much for joining us on the Buck Stops here.
Thank you, Barka.